Welcome to Hope is Here, bringing hope to those struggling with life's difficult situations.
Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is GregJHorn, and it is Thursday, and usually once a month I like to share from a proverb. Proverbs written by Solomon, the wisest man of that time, and just such great wisdom. And I've shared this before, but if you're new to Hope is Here, I had a pastor several years ago, over 20 years ago now, say to me one time, reading a proverb, whatever day of the week is, and like today is January 18th, on Thursday if you're listening live on the radio, or you may listen to this podcast later, but today is the 18th of January, so I'm going to read chapter 18. There's 31 chapters in Proverbs, so a lot of months have 31 chapters. And if you would do that for just 1 year, go back through, it's amazing what God taught me when I did that. I said over 20 years ago, actually now. It's amazing. It's been 30 years ago. I can't believe that, but almost 30 years ago that I started doing that. And I've done that off and on. I may not do it for a year or two, then I'll say, you know what, I'm going to do this. And it was amazing that first year when I did it. It really helped me as a guy in my 20s to be able to see how God would speak to me at a different part in the 18th of that month. Maybe in January he didn't speak to me, but you know what? Come the month of May, something I was dealing with in my life, there was wisdom from that chapter 18. So maybe you're looking to try to grow in some wisdom. You need some wisdom. It's a great way to spend some time. You can do it, on a coffee break at work, on your lunch break. If you do it in your morning routine, that's great, or maybe in the evenings. But I would just encourage you to really think about, if you're looking for a way to have more biblical and godly wisdom in 2024, to check it out. So we're going to look at chapter 18 in Proverbs today. I'm going to share just a few verses here. Verse 2 says in chapter 18 of Proverbs, "Fools have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions." Friends, I thought about a guy that was like that. I tried to help him. He just made a lot of unwise decisions in life, and it had some tough breaks, but some of them were because of unwise decisions, and a lot of it was just his mouth, in all honesty. And I thought about this guy when I was reading this a few years ago about that, and I just thought of him, and I prayed for him that day. And yet I also thought, there's also, I need to look at my own life. Maybe sometimes I'm not willing to hear somebody else's opinion and where they were coming from. And a lot of times when misunderstandings happen, instead of at least trying to listen and hear what the other person says, we just are ready to air our own opinion. And friends, that's what fools do. They have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions. And I know I've been guilty of that in the past, that, and it's easy to do. You start focusing on what you're going to say instead of really listening to another person and hearing their opinion. And want to encourage you to, just say, hey, God, help me to be a better listener. I've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Maybe proportionally you're trying to share with me that I need to listen twice as much as I speak. It's painful for me to say as a guy that communicates a lot, but trying to be a better listener in 2024. Verse number 4 says in chapter 18, "A person's words can be life-giving water. Words of true wisdom are as refreshing as a bubbling brook." Oh, friends, your words are so powerful. And I got to ask you today, are your words life-giving water to somebody? It's easy to be critical and negative, and you can find it easily in our world, anywhere you look quite often. And yet, man, as followers of Jesus, I want to encourage you, I want to challenge you today to say, Heavenly Father, help my words to be life-giving water, to be just a refreshment, to help somebody. So many people feel like they're walking in a desert. I know it's cold in January and dark a lot of the time, but man, they're walking in a desert just thirsty for a word of encouragement. And I just want to pray that your words would be life-giving to people, and that God would help mine to be life-giving. I like the second part of verse 4 in chapter 18 too, though. It says, "Words of true wisdom are as refreshing as a bubbling brook." And we've all seen that before, been around where a bubbling stream of water, a bubbling brook has been, and just how peaceful that is. And friends, if somebody asks for wisdom, that's one thing I've learned as I got a little older in life. Not often anymore will I offer wisdom, even though I really feel like I can help somebody in a situation. I wait till I'm asked. Occasionally, if it's just like, oh, it's so obvious, I feel like I need to share it, I'll say, hey, could I share some input from some experience in my life with that? And 99% of the time, people say, yeah, absolutely. Occasionally, I'll have somebody say, no, I'm good. I just needed to vent. And that's okay too. But all right, let's go and look at Proverbs chapter 18, verse 7. The mouth of fools are their ruin. Their lips get them into trouble. I think we've all been there before, stuck our foot in our mouth. And, I don't like to call anybody a fool, okay? But when you repeat something over and over, the same mistake, that's kind of foolishness, right? And maybe if you've had a history of that, maybe just say, hey, God, 2024, I want that to be different. This year, know we're getting already till past the middle of January, but help my words to be uplifting, just like we talked about earlier, and help me to be more quick to listen and slow to speak and slow to become angry, like James chapter 1, verse 19 says. Chapter 18, verse 9 says, a lazy person is as bad as someone who destroys things. Ouch. Friends, we all have good intentions, but as Toby Keith said, and I won't sing it, I did it one time, and I had a couple of friends reach out and say, man, I started laughing when you sang that song by Toby Keith. A little less talk and a lot more action. Great song. I'm not going to sing it like I did a couple of years ago when I quoted that, but you know what? Friends, it's just true. Sometimes here we start the new year, we talked about things that we were going to do differently, and man, I still would encourage you, it's not too late. It is not too late to say, I'm going to take some action, just one thing. Maybe it's just saying, you know what, I'm going to drink water at lunch or dinner today instead of, a soft drink or iced tea or whatever. Just say, I'm just going to drink good old water, do something healthy for me. Lazy person just putting off things that we need to do, procrastinating. And there's certain areas in my life that I've done that. But schedule that doctor's appointment. If you know you haven't been feeling good, you need a physical, or your mental or emotional health's not good, and maybe you're struggling with depression. Sometimes that happens in the winter. Sometimes it could be a chemical thing in your body. So I would schedule a physical with your doctor, a doctor's appointment. Talk to them. Share what's going on. A good Christian counselor. So the best money I've spent been on good Christian counseling to help me with mental and emotional heartaches, disappointments, wounds in my life. I love verse 10 in chapter 18 of Proverbs. It says, the name of the Lord is a strong fortress. The godly run to him and are safe. Friends, I want to ask you today, who are you running to right now when you're hurting? Are you running towards God, or are you running to somebody else, or you're running to buying stuff, or to eating, or drinking, or pornography, alcohol, going to the mall? I mean, friends, God wants us to run to him. I'm so thankful that Jesus said he would never leave us, never forsake us. But we can stand on that promise today. Love verse 12. It says, haughtiness goes before destruction, and humility precedes honor. That was on a church in Cynthiana many, many years ago, almost 30 years ago. Hard to believe that, but actually I think about 26 years, so not quite 30, closer to 25, but that came on after the flood and Cynthiana and all, and I was fortunate enough to win the Cynthiana Chamber of Commerce Business Person of the Year award. And my office manager one day, I came in and she said, "Did you see that Bible verse at that church?" I think it was Cynthiana Baptist Church, and the day because I lived near there and drove past my way to work. I said, "Yes, I did." She said, "Well, I thought about you," and she kind of laughed. And I said, "Yeah, I've gotten a lot of humble pie since that flood, haven't I?" And as I tell people, the flood was the worst thing that happened to me. And it was also the best thing that happened to me because it made my relationship with Jesus real. and it taught me that life is a lot more about relationships than material things. And so I needed a little humility, and I was thankful to win that award, but it happened after a flood. And so, you know what? It's okay. Honor's all right, but sometimes humility comes before honor. Verse 13 in chapter 18 of Proverbs, as we're looking, if you just tuned in, at what you can read a proverb a month. There's 31 chapters in that, so a lot of months have 31 days. Some just 30, of course. February, obviously not that many. But just a great way to get wisdom to apply in your everyday life. Verse 13 in chapter 18 of Proverbs says, "What a shame, what folly to give advice before listening to the facts." It's kind of been a common theme today and in chapter 18. I love it. Certain chapters in Proverbs kind of have a theme, but it's talking about our mouth and not listening well and how that can cause destruction and hurt and shame and pain and disappointment. But just pay attention to that running theme about maybe needing to talk less and listen more, and listening and getting all the facts before you give advice, things like that. Verse 14 in Proverbs chapter 18 says, "The human spirit can endure a sick body, but who can bear it if the spirit is crushed?" And, friends, that's just so true, and that's why I do Hope is Here. Sometimes we can have a physical sickness, but man, when our mental, emotional health's bad and our spirit's just not good and we get hopeless, it's just hard to function. It truly is. And just want to encourage you, Proverbs chapter 4, verse 23. We're going to go back a couple weeks, but, the verse 4, chapter 4 of Proverbs, verse 23 says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for it's the wellspring of life." Or one version says it's the foundation of everything. And friends, you got to be careful with what you see, what you're looking at. All right? TV, social media. Just have to be really, really careful there and protect your eye. It's the eye gate, no pun intended there, to your mind and your heart. And just be really, really careful about that. I love verse 15 in chapter 18 of Proverbs says, "Intelligent people are always open to new ideas. In fact, they actually look for them." So I got to ask you, if you're listening to this program, I think you're intelligent. But in all seriousness, if you are intelligent, you're open to looking at new ideas. And that's one of the things in this year of 2024 that I've talked with a few trusted people just to look at my life and my schedule and how I can be more efficient and be more effective and healthier. And for somebody that's so busy, and I'm looking for new ideas and reading people's articles and blogs and things that and following people on Twitter that I think are really good with mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health. And it can be a game changer for us. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 17 says, "Any story sounds true until someone sets the record straight." I don't know who's listening or maybe who's watching on our YouTube channel today, but, friends, I want to remind you that sometimes we hear stuff about people or situation. There's always two sides to a story, and sometimes we need to be careful before we start to put judgment on somebody. Last but not least, once again, a common thing with the mouth here, Proverbs chapter 18, verse 21, "Those who love to talk will experience the consequences, for the tongue can kill or nourish life." Friends, I want to encourage you today, let your tongue to bring life and glory to Jesus. I'm GregJHorn, and this is Hope is Here.
Thank you for listening to Hope is Here podcast. To listen to one of our previous programs or to make a tax-deductible donation, please go to our website, hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today. Did you know that Hope is Here is also available on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter? You can find all of these at Hope is Here Lex. Also, check out the daily 1-minute Cup of Hope, available on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That helps you keep your cup hopeful. To find out more information, go to our website, www.hopeisheretoday.org. That's www.hopeisheretoday.org.